board. Hope that is okay with you all. If it is not, you can kindly turn your camera off or whatever. But I am hoping that this will be like an interactive discussion, as this is what usually we are striving for. This is your Regional System of Care Grant Learning Collaborative. And today we're going to talk a little bit about participatory grant making. Can you like raise your hand if that is a new word for you, a new term, participatory grant making? Have you heard that before? No, not heard it before. Okay. All right. It's also like kind of new to me, to be totally honest. So we're all here like learning together, but I did a little research and I think it's a really exciting tool and model, and I'm excited to talk a little bit about how we might bring more of that thinking into system of care grants. We'll also have a little bit of time at the end, like always, for grant updates and any questions you might have about the grant. So we'll have time for that as well. But before we start, let's get into introductions. I do have a little slide deck, and uh, okay, you looking at the right slide? Can someone give me a shout out that you're seeing
I
the
see it.
Yep, looks
Yeah.
good.
Okay, thank you. All right. All right, introductions and vibe check. Some of you have seen this before, maybe like a favorite tool, my latest favorite tool. But y'all, there's a lot going on in the world already. So as we go around and provide your introductions, I'd love to just hear what color you're feeling today or this week. Are you red, feeling totally overloaded, stressed? Are you feeling yellow? Lots going on, gray, or somewhere in between? Just so we can kind of get a sense for how we're all starting out the year. So, does somebody want to start for us? Or I can just call on people
Sure, I
because
can go. So
okay, great.
I'm Lucas Cawthorn, he, him. I'm filling in for Heather Howard. She's our Department Manager of Youth Services for the next door, and I am Youth Services Program Manager. My feeling is probably Grello. It's like in between yellow and green, which I'm pretty happy about. That's great.
Love it. And you said
Um,
your name is Lucius?
Lucius, yeah.
Okay. Like the band?
Kind of like the band, yeah.
Oh, love the band.
Exactly like the band.
Okay.
Funny, when they came out, I was like, there's seriously a band with my name because I don't really see my name that often. And then I kind of liked them too, so that was nice.
Yeah, they're so good. Check them out if
Yeah.
you're new. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
two sisters, right?
Are they? I don't know if
I
they're
don't know.
sisters. I think they just like went to school together.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is.
Yeah.
They're badass though.
Yeah, they're great.
Um, you want me to call someone out or does someone just want to volunteer?
Yeah, if you want to call somebody out, that would be great. Maybe everybody can raise your hand so we don't lose track of.
Cool. Haley, you want to go ahead? I see your hand raised. That's great.
I will, and I'll come on camera for you folks. I can share some vulnerability that I've been up a lot in the middle of the night with a 10-month-old. Hi, friends. Haley Van Horn, she, her pronoun system of care coordinator, and Amanda and I are in sync today because I was sitting here in my head trying to make Oello, Yornge. I was doing different things. But I'm feeling pretty green being here with you all this morning. So, just a spectrum. And I am going to go with Danny.
Well, good morning. Danny McAllister. I'm with Central Oregon System of Care. I'm feeling green. I don't know. It's like the holidays were so heavy and hectic, and I swear my brain forgot how to work that first week back, but it just like all of a sudden clicked, and I feel like everything's okay again. So, I will call on Amanda.
Hi everyone, Amanda, she, her pronouns. I am with a Yamhill Coordinated Care Organization. Can y'all hear me okay? Okay, good. Sorry, my headphones have been funny this morning. I'm, as Haley said, Orange, OLO, somewhere in there. That's where I'm at. Now I'll call on Chris.
So, Chris, I use she, her pronouns. I am in, for those that maybe I haven't met, I am the 12 counties in Eastern Oregon. And I'm green for the first time in months. So like deliverables are on time, like everything is like, so I am doing really great.
You want to call on someone with their hand up? How about
Yeah, I will call on
Roxanne?
Jennifer.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Good morning. I'm Jennifer Schwartz with the System of Care in Lynn, Benton, and Lincoln counties. She, her pronouns, and I am feeling green. So let's see. I need to call on someone. Need to see the hands up. Okay, I will pass this over to Heather.
Good morning, Heather Pasco with the Willamette Health Council System of Care Manager. I'm in the orange boat, I think, this morning. But I do agree with Haley. There is a little bit of green from just being with the group, so I kind of perk up in certain spaces. So I like all the colors. And I will pass it to Roxanne.
Does Roxanne know she's muted?
Roxanne didn't know she was muted. I was almost done with my introduction. Roxanne Robinson, she, her pronouns. And I'm the System of Care Coordinator for the Southern Oregon region, Josephine, Jackson, and Curry counties. And I am feeling orange because I'm in Josephine, Jackson, and Curry counties. No, I will pass it on to Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen Cole. I am the System of Care Coordinator for Klamath County, and I am feeling yellow, but maybe a little bit orange too. Currently, my husband's in the hospital, so I'm trying to balance work and visiting him and everything. So,
Karen, I'm so sorry.
yeah,
That's really rough.
it's hard to balance work and
Yeah,
hospital care.
please take care of yourself. Like hospitals and family are way more important than whatever we're going to talk about here today. So, really,
Okay,
no
thank you.
problem. No problem at all. If you want to hop out. How about we'll go to Selby?
Hello. Yeah, so I'm Selby. I use she, her pronouns. And yeah, again, for new people that I might not know, I'm the System of Care Specialist for Washington, Multnomah, and Clackamas counties. And I'm following the trend that has been mentioned of being somewhere between yellow and orange, kind of in between those two, but moving along. So thank you and good morning. And go ahead, Joylene.
Hi, everybody. Joylene Carter, she, her pronouns. I work at SOC as our youth and family engagement strategist. Today, I am heavily resonating with the Orange crew. Lots going on, still managing. On that note, quick plug, there is a youth policy advocacy training this evening at 3:30 virtual free. Information is on Basecamp. It is for young people to do all things advocacy and get those tools for whatever they want to advocate for in legislature and any of our spaces. And so I'm just putting that on your radar since the invitation got on Basecamp kind of late. So just so you all know that that is happening, and that is one of the things that has me orange. I will pass it on to Amelia.
Good morning, everybody. I am gonna just keep with the wave of Team Orange. Uh, I'm Amelia Kircher. I am the executive director for the Amani Center. We are here representing the North Coast, I guess, Columbia Pacific CCO area. And yeah, definitely. I do feel today a little bit more on the yellow than the orange, but there's definitely that hint of orange there still. Um, yeah. Uh, and then it looks like Tom popped his hand up. So, Tom, you're next.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everyone. Tom Byloser, him, his pronouns, Director, Trillium Community Health Plan, Behavioral Health, and probably in the green. Apologize, I'll be off camera today, just driving back from an event at a hospital system here in Springfield. And I think, have we covered all the hands? Oh, I see one more. Christy, does it go back to you?
Yeah, I think Corinne also hasn't had a chance to say hello. So I'll turn it over to Corinne for a minute and then I think
Great.
that'll be it.
Hi, thanks so much, everybody. It looks like, sorry I'm so late. It's been kind of a weird morning, but um it looks like we're giving status checks. So I guess I'm an orange too, given my weird morning. Thank you so much for allowing me to sneak in.
All right. Thanks, Corinne. Hey, everybody. I am Christy. If we haven't met, she, her pronouns, transformation manager with the System of Care Advisory Council. I'm feeling pretty grello today. It's been a busy week, but I'm feeling pretty good and excited for the weekend. And I just want to say, like, okay, it sounds like a lot of you are maybe kind of yellow orange. So totally understand if like this information or this collaborative is like hard for you to be present in, and that is like totally fine. I'm hoping we can have some conversation. And also, like, if you're like, too much, can't take in more information, like these are all recorded. So maybe just like make a note. You can always come back to it. So with that, let's get into it. So like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about participatory grant making today, which is basically like a fancy way of um, trying to make sure that people who are recipients of grant funds are involved in the decisions about those grant funds. So today we're really going to think about like who's making decisions about this money. Like I'm going to think about this from like the state perspective, and then I want you all to think about it as you are also grant makers. You might think of yourself as a receiver of grant funds, but you are also grant makers, and how you distribute agile funding in terms of providing money to sub-grantees through community-based organizations in your community. So let's talk a little bit about who's making decisions. And just to say, like, there's no right or wrong answer here. So we're all here to learn together. I want to start out this morning with a little think, pair, share. So we're going to take a few minutes just to kind of think quietly. If you want to like write down, journal, draw, just think quietly, turn your camera off if you want, whatever. Take a few minutes just to think quietly about these questions for you and your region and your grant. And then we'll get into pairs of two, share out, and then we'll bring it back to the full group and share out as well. But in thinking about your grants, who makes decisions about how you use your system of care grant? How are you making decisions about those allocations? And are youth and family members involved? Are they part of those? Are they included in the decision making? How are decisions made? Like what kind of process do you use? When and where are decisions made? How is equity considered in your decisions? And what information do you use when making decisions? So we'll take a few minutes, think quietly, jot some notes down, and then we'll move into breakouts. I'm gonna go off screen too. But holler if you have any questions, okay?
Hey, Christy, can you throw these in the chat as well? Is that possible?
I'll work on that. I
Thank you,
see a
Joylene.
coffee cup next to Christy's name, so I think
Thank
she's
you.
grabbing coffee.
All right. I'd invite you to turn your camera back on when you're feeling ready to move into a pair. All right. Okay, so now we're going to move into rooms of like one or two other people and give you, well, let's do like 6 or 7 minutes to kind of share out. So each person can take a few minutes just to share some of your reflections. Okay. I also really want to join a room. So we'll see how this works. If we have an even number. If not, I might crash one of these rooms. Joylene, are you able to stay in or
I can hold the main space if you want to go.
okay, maybe I'll go chat with Jennifer then.
Yeah. No problem.
Hi. Hold on. I'm just gonna set my timer, so okay. How are you?
I am good.
Yeah. Hi.
Is it just the two of us?
Yeah. We're just doing a little.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I'll start.
Okay.
So what we've done for the last two grant cycles is I create a survey and I send it to all of the system of care members. And it has all of the gaps and barriers that have been identified through the barrier resolution process. And so then they decide what they want to fund, what areas or what gaps they want to fill with the funding.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, we also have a list of all of our community-based organizations that could potentially have the capacity. In the past, this time I didn't have to, but during the first time that we used this process, I had to reach out to all the nonprofits and ask if they had bandwidth to be able to expand their services. So then we okay, so this, and I can show you the survey. So they identify which gaps, and in the past it was peer support. So when Hillary was in your role, we funded Youth Era, OFSN, and One to Another. In the second year, they still wanted peer support, but then they also wanted respite and youth activities, so pro-social youth activities. So that's when we funded that long list of organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happened is people were just clicking all of them, right? We thought maybe they would click one or two organizations, but they wanted all of them for the most part. There were a few organizations that didn't get enough votes to be able to be funded. So then, so once we collected all of that data, I then have a meeting with our youth and family members, and then we talk through the results. And they have, you know, a lot more say in how we're going to spend the money, but they've always affirmed what the data showed.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this last round of grants, you know, we did the same process, and this time I didn't reach out to the community-based organizations for bandwidth because they all seemed, I mean, I reached out to them and said, you've been awarded a grant, you know, can you do this? And they all said yes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our process. Oh, and we do take equity into consideration. So based on our regional data, we know that the populations that kind of have unequal access to services are our rural youth, our low-income youth, our kids in resource care, our IDD youth, mm-hmm. our BIPOC, and our LGBTQ plus youth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that we identified. Well, we've identified it in the past two grant cycles.
Is that equity?
Remember the final question.
Are those priority populations included in the survey somehow, or how do they?
I believe so. Yes. So they click on that too, and you can check all that apply, and so you can check through that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I'd love to see the survey. That's okay. I haven't heard of anybody else using that kind of process before, but I hear what you're saying, like in terms of of course, people are going to click everything, you know? Have you thought
Well, I
about
mean,
setting up a survey?
there's like, out of 20 or however many, maybe five aren't selected, get very few votes.
Yeah. Can people
And
select all that they want, or do you limit the
yeah,
number they can oh, okay. I'm
no, I
wondering,
don't limit it
you
like
don't.
top three. And I figure that shows, I think when an organization isn't being selected, I mean, this is my assumption, is that maybe they're not as effective at their, like, community partners know
Yeah.
which organizations, are kind of effective at providing services or the work they do.
Yeah.
So it feels almost like a quality control mechanism in
Yeah.
terms of who we're funding
Okay.
and our kind of expectations of them sort of meeting the
Yeah.
outcomes.
But you don't like if you've had problems with a grantee in terms of like, oh, they're late or they don't turn the reports or whatever, like that doesn't consider, you don't take that into consideration. You just kind of trust community to kind of weed that out.
Yeah, and they did a great job. I mean, and it's kind of, I mean, in looking at thinking about the participatory voting model, I mean, it's similar to that. I mean, we're having everyone participate in it.
Yeah.
We're really elevating we don't have youth members, but we have family members. We're using the barrier resolution process. We're using data. We're using equity. I mean, it's been pretty smooth in terms of engagement and buy-in.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it sounds like it.
And outcomes. I mean, the last grant cycle, they served over 10,000 kids. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
your reach is incredible.
Yeah. So
yeah. Well, you're familiar with, I mean, because you're on the grants committee, you're pretty familiar, I think, with kind of what we do at the state level, which is like it's the grants committee that it are the decision makers, you know. Um, it's interesting though, like as I say that, because like when I came into this, I inherited those grants, like the amount of funding had been that I should probably text, hold on, let me send a message to Darlene. Or maybe, oh, I don't know if she can actually close it. Okay. Well, I'll just share out, and then I gotta go.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the grants committee. Appointed members make decision via consensus. That group doesn't necessarily make decisions about the grants, but that being said, there's really not a decision to make about the grant. Like these are non-competitive. It's kind of like, hey, everybody, you get $200,000. The only thing that we kind of make decisions about is like how people are spending that money. But honestly, like I can't even think of an example. There was like maybe one, oh, maybe your example, or there was another one where there was somebody like, oh, we want to spend on tobacco prevention. And we were like, you know what? There are like gobs of money for tobacco prevention. Go figure something else out there. But like, there are very few things that people have proposed that were like, no, we don't want you to do that. That conversation happens not with local system of care partners, but we have a small work group of the grants committee. It's very heavily grounded in youth and family. So in terms of equity, again, I don't think we're really doing a lot there. We have a little bit, we have a requirement that people invest in DEI, but we haven't set like, that could be $1 and you would meet the expectation there. But there is an ongoing conversation about maybe shifting to an equitable funding formula. So we'll see where that goes in the future.
Okay. Yeah, it would be great. I mean, in the past, when there was funding available, it seemed like that was offered to regional system of care groups. So I don't know if that's.
What do you mean? I'm sorry.
Well, when there's funding attached to system of care advisory council, and that money would just be distributed to the regional system of care groups. So I think that happened during we're on our third grant cycle. So I think that happened during the first one and the second one.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's, that.
Yeah. And at this
that would be great.
At this point, that's exactly what we intend to do. We don't really have we'll just continue to do that, until the grants committee decides they want to do something different. So, okay. I'm going to bounce and close these rooms.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good, Christy. I'll talk to you later.
Leave breakout room.
All right, Christy, I need to
Taking a
hop
bounce.
off.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, thanks for being here for a minute.
of course. Hope the rest goes well.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Oh my gosh. Does your computer just ever like go a little nuts and zoom? Ah. All right. Welcome back, everybody. I have a feeling that maybe was not enough time. So sorry about that. But let's keep the conversation going. So I'm hoping that folks will want to share out a little bit of what you all talked about. But as you share out, I thought it would be helpful to bring this visual up and invite you to kind of talk about like, oh, we were in consulting or we're in informing. So this feels a little bit similar like Hart's ladder, right? So on the left side, informing, that's where grant makers tell recipients what's going to happen. Non-grant makers receive that information, that decision. Consulting is where grant makers receive information, opinions from non-grant makers. Involving is where there's two-way communication, but the ultimate decision is still held by the grant maker. And then deciding is two-way communication, so co-creation, and it's really a joint decision between the grant maker and the grant receiver. So I would love to hear some examples that people might want to share in terms of like how you're making decisions about this funding and where you kind of see yourself falling in the scale. And again, no right or wrong answer here. So like no shame if you are like informing people. That's totally fine. Who would like to start?
Well, I can go for you.
Amelia.
I'm one of those people that hates the silence, so just want to jump in. Yeah, and I think my process is maybe a little bit different than everybody else's. I think I'm the only one that's not a uh, larger system. I'm an individual community-based organization. So one of the things that Corinne and I were talking about is that I really want to find better ways to have more youth and family involvement in our services and our decision-making process. I'm a child advocacy center, so we deal with families when they're in crisis, some of the worst things that happen in their lives. And most of the time, those folks, don't want to hear from us like a year or two out because they're like, yeah, I want to forget about that thing that happened in my life. So it's been a little bit more difficult for us. We do have feedback surveys that families fill out when they're here at the center. And then we work with like our local youth advisory council on kind of another level. But in terms of this system of care grant, it was really like originated out of feedback surveys. Our multidisciplinary team conducted a community assessment, which was analysis of like our population data and like numbers of individuals like served, and then like what our kind of founded rates for abuse look like, and kind of where those gaps are in our populations. And then, the decision was made based on that and based on feedback and interactions that we had with other professionals from our Latinx community that like, we needed to do more to connect our Latinx community to the system of care across the Tri-County area. And so that was really, on our end, chosen as a focus. And then we brought that to the system of care group to, as a proposal. And then we were chosen by our, local committee that reviewed those different projects. And each of those organizations on that committee were asked to review the projects, take them back to their people, their organizations, and kind of make a decision on what project they wanted the system of care to support. And so I feel like there was a lot of, kind of involving, collaborating, in some of that process. But I think there's definitely like, ultimately it comes down to my organization made a decision that we wanted to focus on this project. And like, so I feel like there's definitely room to grow there in terms of like, feedback in the actual process. But I think it's got to be evolving. Always, this is like kind of a new concept, right, for grant making. For so many years, it's been like, we're just gonna put out this proposal. You're gonna apply for it. We're gonna tell you what to do. You're gonna do it, right? And these kind of opportunities to kind of create what it is that you want to address and support, that is that's very different. It's very unique. But yeah, I mean, I think, our focus is a lot on equity, and we're definitely focusing through the course of the grant on continuing to get feedback. And like, we've gone to, like, the school had a multilingual back to school family night that we went to, and we had like water bottles and stickers for the kids. And then the opportunity to fill out a survey and get a $10 gift card for back to school supplies. And we got tons of really great feedback from that around, what folks are wanting and what they need. And then like my community is kind of, I'm going way too far, guys. My community is in a little bit of crisis right now with the school sex abuse stuff that's been going on. That's been pretty public. And our Spanish speaking community came to our organization because of the outreach that we've been doing. And they said, hey, we really want a training in sex abuse prevention. Like, we want Darkness to Light in Spanish. Can you bring it out? And so we're working on making that happen. But I don't think they would have made that ask of us if we hadn't been already doing that outreach. So I do feel like it's opened more avenues for collaboration and for involving that weren't there before. I will stop rambling now.
That's great. Thank you so much, Amelia. That was a great example. So I think you're like, I'm hearing brushes of like consulting and also involving. And I think just like how seriously you take the feedback and the input, it sounds like ultimately like you all control the numbers and where the dollars go, right? But there's a lot of like in very intentional listening to community members at varying levels about where that funding should go. So that's a great example. Anybody else want to share out? Amanda, hey.
Hi. So yeah, I had something really cool happen at my meeting yesterday that I wanted to share that relates to this because I'm in this sort of unique position of executing a grant that I didn't write the application for with SOCAC. And so, and also trying to think about how to be flexible and adaptive with the community needs when the decisions were made before I even stepped into this role about how that money was going to be spent. But I also find myself in the position, I don't know if anyone else has experienced this in their system of care meetings, where I'm sort of going sometimes to my committees and begging them not to make me the decision maker, where I'm sort of pleading with them that I don't want to be the one in control or in power, and reminding them that that this is a community-led initiative, and I feel like a broken record sometimes really re-engaging with that notion with system of care. And I was sharing with Roxanne that, in my first year, it maybe felt like I wasn't getting anywhere or doing very much. And then yesterday at my meeting, one of our community members, one of our family advocates, had gotten their hands on something that Jen Shorts was doing in her community, the comic book that they were printing. And she brought it to the meeting and was like, this is really cool. Can we do this? I want to do this. And everybody else was looking at it going, yeah, we want to do this. Let's do this. And I was like, oh my God. That's so exciting.
We can do that.
We can do that because luckily we had some communication dollars for outreach materials that the person who had written the grant application had allocated. And it was just one of those like beautiful circumstances where, like, thank goodness the person ahead of me was, they could never have foreseen that circumstance coming up, but at least they were kind of splitting up dollars and putting some things aside in several buckets so that, when that happened, I was in the position to be like, yes, absolutely. Let me talk to Jen. Let me see what she has and like what her thoughts are about the process. And so that was just like really nice and reassuring, and just a good reminder that sometimes when maybe you feel like you're not doing anything, you are, by showing up and being present and continuing to be available. And so it's really just kind of nice.
That's great. That's so responsive. It feels so good to be able to say yes, right? Yeah, I love that.
Can you share the comic? Now I want to know what this is.
It lives online. Jennifer, do you have a link to it you can pop in? You want to share a little bit?
Amanda, I sent you,
I
think, an email with everything that we've done and all the links. If you want to just forward that to everyone.
Yeah.
I can. Actually, I can find
I
that.
can do it too.
I'll do
Whichever.
it.
You're just so sweet and
do it.
generous. Thank you so much. And I just also, it was such a cool deal of like, I think our communities are maybe getting less isolated, that like someone in my community had gotten their hands on something that was going on in Lynn Benton, Lincoln. And it was so neat. It was such like a neat little system of care moment. And then for me to be like, oh, I know Jen, I can just reach out. I bet she would be willing to share with me how they went about getting their hands on that. And anyway, it was really nice.
I don't think I have an up-to-date email label for everyone. Does anyone have an up-to-date one, and then that I can forward to you to then share out?
Do you want to share it to me, Jennifer, and then I'll just attach it as a follow-up?
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
All right. Anybody else want to share? Maybe one more in terms of your SOC grant, how decisions are made.
I can share our process. So what we do is we create a survey, and we include details about the grant, the amount, the purpose. And then we ask all of our system of care members, which include our family members, what they want to fund, and the list that we provide them of different services and options. It comes from our barrier resolution process. So these are already identified gaps and needs in our community. And then in the first iteration of this, it was which communities most need these services. And the second, it was which youth populations. And then we asked which organizations did folks want me to reach out to see if they had capacity to provide these services. And then there's also lots of options, for other needs or other organizations you want included. So they have a lot of opportunity to provide feedback. I collect the responses, present it back to the system of care, ask them if they feel comfortable with the results. I also hold a separate meeting with our family members just to make sure that their voices are elevated. They affirm the results, and then we move forward from there.
So would you put yourself like in the involving box, Jennifer, where you collect all of this information, but it's Is it you that makes the final decision?
No, it's the
No,
executive
the
council that makes
executive
the final
council.
decision.
Okay.
And well, it's kind of a mix of the advisory committee who will recommend accepting it.
Uh-huh.
And we have a lot of family members on our advisory committee. And then they make the recommendation that, yes, let's go ahead and go with this plan. And then we submit that to the executive council and they're the ones who vote on it.
Okay.
So no, I like Amanda, try not to be the one that's driving this. It's like, here's all the information. This is what we've collected. This is what you've collected as a community. This is what we know about it. What do you want to do with this funding? So,
are there any sub-grantees on the executive committee?
No. Well, I think some of our peer support organizations.
Okay.
And they are sub-grantees.
And do you have youth or family on your executive?
We have family on our executive, but we just have not been able to retain youth. It's such a transitory population. So we'll have them for a little bit and then in 6 months, they're not able to attend, they've moved, they've changed schools, things, other activities.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're a little bit between like involving and deciding, which is also, I think, where I would put the System of Care Advisory Council. I'm happy to share a little bit kind of what this looks like at the state level, if that would be helpful. My assumption is that folks kind of know that, but maybe not. So at the state level, there's a grants committee of the System of Care Advisory Council, and that is the place where decisions about the grants are made by consensus. The decisions about these grants are a little funny because thus far they've been non-competitive, $200,000 to every region. I don't know where the $200,000 comes from. Like that decision is made by the executive committee, but that's like kind of a proposal that I put together with Anna, to be honest. But so staff put the proposal together. We bring that to the grants committee. Our grants committee includes local system of care representatives as voting members. We've got youth and family represented there. So that's where like the big decision about kind of how much and for what is made. But the decisions about like who actually reviews the applications happens with a work group that doesn't include local system of care partners, but does heavily involve youth and family members. The decisions there, again, these are non-competitive, so it's not like can think of just like maybe a couple of things that you all have proposed that we were like, can you go find additional funding for that, or maybe not this time. But 99% of the time we're like, sure, sounds great. Here's your money. But there is kind of a decision there is really more around like a negotiation if there's anything in there that the grants committee didn't want to fund. In terms of equity, we have run the grant proposals through our GARE racial equity analysis tool. We did that for the 23 to 25 grant funding, and that is actually why we have required allocations in the DEI category. Just like as an example, I think there's a lot more we could do in equity funding or equity-centered funding decisions. There has been kind of ongoing conversation about moving towards an equitable funding formula that would take into consideration things like population, geography, complexity of situations in a given region. That would be a big change, but that is certainly something that I think continues to be of interest to the grants committee. What else would be of interest? Oh, and then in terms of information, I think we did do like a survey of you all a couple of years ago now when we were putting out the 23 to 25 grants, and that kind of continues to inform decisions about these funds. And then it's really kind of the grants committee, and particularly looking to the local system of care members on that group who are voting members, and really kind of listening very closely to their desires about what these funds should go towards. So, okay, well, we are running short on time. I love this visual. Participatory grant making is a values-based process. System of care is also a very values-based process, so I felt like this really aligned. Participatory grant making sees the process as an outcome, is more than money. It involves community. It's simple and flexible. It's transparent. It builds and strengthens social movements, is values based. I heard a lot of these things as some of you were sharing out, so that's great. Everybody loves a good quote. Here were a few that I found that really resonated with me as I was digging into this. Those closest to the problem or closest to the solution. This is a system of care favorite. Thinking about that in terms of grant funding and who's making decisions, how those decisions are being made in grant dollars. It's interesting to think about. When youth are responsible for the grant making, they become more confident and often become leaders in the community. And by decentralizing decisions about where resources go and trusting that they're the experts of their own realities, we're giving them power. And yet, this doesn't come without challenge or concern. So here are just a few, just to name them. Participatory grant making can be resource intensive, right? It can slow the process down. And sometimes we just don't have time to slow down and really bring people into the decision. It can involve safety and security risks, can sometimes result in conflicts of interest. And there's some interesting resources about kind of how to handle that within grant making. It can be difficult to ensure representation, doesn't eliminate the potential for bias. And finally, and I think most interestingly, decisions made through participatory grant making may differ from what the institution wants. Amanda, I am just looking at your question here. Okay. Can we hold on that for a second? Okay. I think it's interesting and I do want to talk about it. Okay, so just as we kind of wrap this up, thinking about grant making, and particularly as you start to think about the next round of funding for 25 to 27, are there any changes or adjustments that you might want to consider in those funds in terms of how you are making decisions about who's making decisions about these dollars? What concerns do you have? What does this bring up for you? So, would you all entertain like one more breakout room for a few minutes? Okay. Let's recreate. Let's make them a little bit bigger this time. And okay, here you go. Let's go for like 7 minutes and just kind of wrap it up kind of conversation. What do you make of all this? What does it mean to you? What do you want to do with it? Okay, we'll see you back here in a few minutes. Getting. Hi.
Sorry.
Hi.
Oh, my battery died.
Oh.
And I don't have my charger with me here. And so I'm gonna have to go to a new space. But
Oh, you're fine. Sorry.
okay.
It's okay. Everyone's in a breakout, and then we're just gonna like wrap it up and stuff.
Sounds good. How are you?
I'm okay. Yeah.
Things are really going on in system of care.
Yeah. I'm curious to know. Feels like you going through some stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I mean, you're going through some stuff. Like, we're all going through
It's true. It's true. Well, I hear you and happy to be an ear or whatever you need.
Yeah, it's just it's it is also fascinating to like watch a lot of really good, smart people come together and like collaborate on like a way to like meaningfully break barriers to care, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And system change is hard. If there's not conflict, probably not doing it,
Yeah.
which is what I like to tell myself in hard.
Yeah. I think that's true.
Yeah. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We are running short on time, and I want to make sure we've got enough time for updates and Q&A and to get back to Danny's question or Amanda's question. So take any like I have to share this out with a full group breakout moment. Folks want to spell out.
I'll say something. Yeah, we were talking about how and we talk about this all the time, I feel like, but it's just like a really good thing to continue to discuss around having more youth voice in the spaces, but also really wanting to be like I was saying, I think we actually do a really good job of that. And I think it's because we have youth advisory councils growing in each of our counties and so they're really community based and they're safe spaces for the youth to go and like share their ideas and they're always welcome and do get like payment for participating in the system of care spaces as well. But it's just really being mindful of like, not dragging them there. Like more often than not, we try to go to their space as they invite us. And so I think being really intentional with creating a safe and supportive space for them and then allowing that kind of feedback loop has been really helpful for us. One thing I'm interested in and heard Danny talk a lot about is like family engagement. And I think it would be really cool to someday have something similar that's for family, like a parent advisory council or something like that as well. But those were just my thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree, Corinne. It's been really interesting this last round of grant funding at the state level, having so many youth engaged, because I have to say, like, they are the most critical voices in those conversations, and even proposing things like, that particular grantee didn't address this thing in their grant report, so we should not fund them, or really wanting you all to do like full applications and really spell out all the things, right? Um, I don't know what that means and what that means for the future, but the high standards among youth, which I think is so important. And we need to trust that. So, all right. Anybody else got a thing they want to share? Okay. All right. Thanks so much for digging into this. I know a lot of you are feeling like pretty burnt out. Yeah, hopefully it's helpful and just gives you something to think about as you start to pivot towards the next round of funding. Um, There will be more information coming out about that very soon. I am hoping that the grants committee will kind of make final decision about the next round of funding at their January meeting. If you have questions or thoughts about that, just to remind you all that your local system of care representatives on that group are Jennifer, Tracy Howard, and I'm missing one person. Oh, Jake Dilla out of Pacific Source, Central Oregon. So if you've got strong feelings or thoughts, those are your voting members on the grants committee. Um, Other reminders, I think you all know next grant quarterly report is due end of this month. I'd also encourage you all, if you have not yet invoiced for your final $100,000, you can please do that at any time. So we can get you your funds out. If you're like, I don't know if we got the rest of the money, just let me know. Send me an email. I'm happy to get that sorted out for you. I've got one other thing related to strategic planning, but Amanda, you had a question about communication and needing to get your system of care materials approved by OHA.
Yeah, so I don't think I do, but my supervisor was like, you should ask this question just in case. Because CCOs, when they're publishing materials for members, like surveys and outreach materials and pamphlets and things like that, have to go through a pretty rigorous approval process with OHA when they're publishing materials that are going to be sent to or directed for members of their insurance plan. And so it's just kind of this funny space where like system of care is a CCO grant deliverable, a grant obligation, and some of us are housed within CCOs, and so we're working in organizations that are used to doing things this way when you're printing materials, sending things through this rigorous, slow OHA approval process. But system of care is they're not targeted just for CCO members, it's for all community members, and so I just was curious if anyone had navigated this tension before or if anyone had heard anything about it. It sounds like for the most part, folks don't really do that process for system of care materials, outreach materials.
Does anybody do that? Seeing lots of head shakes.
Okay.
Amanda, who's pay? Is it your grant that's paying for these communication materials?
Right. Yeah. So in our grant application with you, we had like a $10,000 allocation for outreach materials, I
Yeah,
think. And
that's the other thing. It's like,
right, it's not
not
CCO money.
correct. It's not
Um,
OHA's money.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Okay.
thank you. Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid answer, right? Where all the system of cares are publishing materials pretty regularly, so I feel like that's a pretty clear answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you're still getting stuck, Amanda, just reach out.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it wasn't like there was a strong resistance or anything. It was
Okay.
just like, oh, is this? I don't know the answer to this question.
Curiosity.
Yeah. Thank
Right.
you.
Yeah.
I will real quick say, Amanda, that I definitely feel like within our CCO, they're like, nope, that's system of care stuff. Like, we don't need to review any of that. It's fine. But the only time that I get like questions about it is when I ask for translation. So when I need to get something translated in a different language and then share it, that's usually when people are like, has this gone to OHA yet? And I'm like, and then I just go into a spiel of like, it doesn't need to, blah, blah, blah,
Got it. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, Selby, you asked a question. Do you want us to respond in the grant report to questions that were posed to us via the grant feedback form? I mean, I think if you want to, but I don't think it's a requirement, right? I mean, so your grant reports come in, we divide those up among members of the grants committee. They have a chance to review. It's a great way for them to kind of see what's happening and understand and build some curiosity about what's happening in those grants and with those dollars. They have this little feedback form. I still not totally convinced it's really working very well. But I do compile that. I send that to you. But the chance that the person who reviewed your report last month is going to review your report this quarter and is going to remember that. But I think just generally, we're just trying to kind of provide just a feedback loop because you all put thought and time into those reports and just to let you know, like, hey, we read that and we celebrate this thing you're doing over here. If that's, and like maybe next time in a future report, tell us a little bit more about that. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions about your grant in general? Current grant, future grant?
Can you tell us anything, Christy, about what is on the table for the 25-27, right? Like what are some topics that are still yet to be decided? What do we have to look forward to, Christy?
Great question. Great question. So proposal is just to do straight $200,000 to every region as an amendment. That would basically mean you all sit down with your implementation plan, make any changes you want to make, send that back to us. The conversations that have not really landed yet are related to required funding categories. So we'll maintain the required allocation towards youth and family engagement and DEI. There's an outstanding question of whether or not to provide a minimum dollar amount in those categories. If we did do a minimum, I don't think it's going to be a lot, but it could be something like, hey, y'all got to put at least $20,000, for example, in youth and family and 20,000 towards DEI. So it could be something like that. I think that's the only question that comes to mind. Jennifer, you're a member of the grants committee. Is there anything else that it's been a minute since I looked at that proposal. Anything else that you can recall that might be of interest to folks?
Christy, as you guys are having those conversations, can you please remind them that I have 12 counties. So when you're saying it, we tend to break that evenly. And so just keeping that in mind when you start allocating specific dollars.
Yeah.
Percentages might be better for me in my 12 counties than in a specific dollar amount. That's all.
Yeah, it wouldn't be by county, Chris.
No, I understand that. but we divide our money up by county.
Got it.
I'm just asking that as you guys do that, that you are like a percentage would be better for me than a flat number, because that becomes a little more challenging on my end. That's all.
Okay. Okay. Heard.
Thank you.
Yeah. Jennifer, is there anything else that you can think of? We're trying to make this as easy breezy for y'all, and for us, frankly. That being said, I think the hope is that then we will have room to maybe delve into more meatier conversations about the 27 to 29 funding, but we'll get to that bridge when we cross it.
I think the only thing that we're interested in is when will that opportunity to submit an application occur? Like, and I don't know if we've had that conversation yet in the grants committee.
Yeah, my hope is that as soon as we get a decision and kind of final approval from the grants committee that like, yes, this is how we're going to do it, that we will get that information out to you all like the very next day. My hope is that we can kind of do as much work as possible, now. We won't be able to execute those amendments until we have the money out of the legislature. So that would be more of like an August, September kind of execution, hopefully. But my hope is that if we can kind of get all the work done, that it's as simple as just like, okay, we've already negotiated, we're good on the plan, here's your money, get everything signed so we can get those amendments signed by, sometime in September, maybe. And your current grant doesn't end until end of the year, so you'll have lots of time and room. That's my hope.
Well, certainly appreciate all the hard work, and especially those of you that take time to be on that committee. I'm hoping to start jumping into those as a non-voting member as well. So just thank y'all to those of you, and of course the other people that are involved.
Great. Thanks, Haley, and everybody. All right. Any other questions? If not, I got one little thing for you as we wrap it up. Okay. So I think you all know that SOCAC is going to be deep into strategic planning for the 26 to 29 strategic plan. We are finalizing the details of our community engagement efforts related to that, and we'll be putting out communication soon, hopefully by the end of the month here. Just broadly, there's going to be kind of 3 phases to our strategic planning. The first 6 months are going to be what we call the listening phase. So listening to youth and family, listening to regional system of care partners, listening to our tribal partners, listening to kind of anybody who has something to share with us. Then phase 2 will be this summer. There will be a retreat. The council will retreat. Plan, take all of that information in, make a plan. And then phase 3 will be the validating and vetting phase. And that's when we will go back to everybody we listen to, kind of share out the plan. Here's what we came up with. Does that resonate? Are you bought into this? Is there anything you're concerned about? And then we'll kind of make any adjustments we need to, and then finalize by the end of the year. That being said, the first 6 months here-ish of 2025 are listening, and we definitely want to listen to all of our regional partners. So the thinking is that we're probably going to, use one of our, not the Grantee learning collaboratives, but one of the monthly learning collaboratives to hold a conversation about strategic planning. Really hope that you will, in particular, invite your partners into that collaborative. We'll make sure you have lots of time and space to let people know. But that'll be like, what do y'all think we should do about this? What are your strategy ideas? What actions do you want to see us take over the next 4 years? In addition to that, if you all really want to like convene a more regional specific conversation, SOCAC staff are happy to support that. So that could mean you've got an upcoming meeting in the next 6 months that you have time to kind of focus some of the agenda on strategic planning at the state level. you want to convene a news space, you've got, you know, your executive committee, you've got your youth and family members coming together somewhere. Anyways, you know your spaces in your community's best. So if you build the space for us, SOCAC will come. We'll put together some sort of template and standardized kind of conversation guide. So that being said, if you build the space, if you need money to build that space, whatever that means, you want, you know, you need to stipend people, you want to bring people together in person, you need incentives, whatever. Like you can use some of your grant dollars to do that. There's a whole line item in your implementation plan for strategic planning. So feel free to like, you know, move some money around. If that is a concern for you, if you're like, we are fully allocated, we have like no pennies to pinch in this budget, like don't want that to be a barrier at all. So if that is a concern for you, please let us know and we'll try and figure something out with you. But just wanted to put that out there. Again, we'll have more communications hopefully out by the end of the month, but I just wanted to flag that for you all now. And those meetings would probably need to happen by like end of June at the very, very latest. We haven't yet set the date yet for the retreat, but we're looking at maybe like July or August. So any questions about that? Just want to get your brains thinking. Obviously, if you have like specific dates in mind or meetings in mind, like letting us know about that sooner rather than later would be great. If you have a small region, maybe you're just like a one county shop, maybe like talking to your neighbors about collaborating on an event, like happy to come to one county, but you know, in the spirit of collaboration and partnership and kind of the magic that happens when we bring different regions together, would also invite you to explore that. Any questions? Okay. Well, thank you all so much. It's going to be a great year. Really appreciate working with you all. Your gems. We have a great long weekend and we will see you sometime soon.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christy.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.